Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us at the MarketSite studio in Times Square, New York City, we have Ajay Sarkar, founder and CEO of Optimeyes, as well as Andrew Beagley, Chief Risk Officer of Optimeyes, to discuss enterprise risk management. And we're also going to take a look at how CISOs can effectively communicate security needs and strategy to the C-suite and to the board. Ajay and Andrew, it is great to see you as always. Welcome to MarketSite.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the boards for a moment here. How are they looking for advanced dashboard analytics to help them manage risk?
So I think first and foremost, Jill, given that boards recognize the regulatory landscape and the risk landscapes are changing so rapidly, they're looking for more intuitive, more predictive, more forward-looking analytics to be able to make smarter and more real-time decisions.
So when you think about traditional risk management, it sounds as if that strategy no longer applies in today's environment.
Yeah, and one of the reasons, Jill, is that what used to work, traditional risk management approach, which is mainly GRC-based, governance-based, it doesn't work in today's world because the footprint of the risk, let's say cyber footprints, are changing by the minute or by the second. So you need almost a constant approach of risk assessment, risk quantification, risk prioritization, so you would know the risk footprint across the enterprise at any point of time.
So tell us about the Optimeyes solution and how you're leveraging AI and machine learning for predictive analytics.
So we're helping organizations take whatever risk program they have today, as Ajay was describing, the traditional governance-based approach, and getting organizations onto the front foot using AI/ML. And what we mean by that is allowing them to be more predictive, to make better use of data, data aggregation, data synthesis, data normalization. Using those techniques, you're able to make better use of whatever it is that you're able to get into your risk program to begin with. The more you can get in, the more you can use AI/ML, then the better results are going to be more useful to boards and other stakeholders.
And this is across the organization, so it's not like it only sits in the CFO's office or the CTO's office, so you're able to look at this real time across the org.
Absolutely, from all corner, all angle, and you will have a centralized dashboard to see all facets of risk, not only operational risk layer, but functional layer, and also enterprise risk layer, how it impacts your business and enterprise.
Well, it sounds like it also helps you manage costs and efficiency as well.
Absolutely.
And it makes the job much easier.
Yeah, if you're able to create, what we at Optimeyes describe as a single source of truth, you're able to aggregate the data, you're able to get everything into one place in a meaningful way, then there's naturally going to be cost savings because more stakeholders are going to be able to tap into that. You spend less time passing through in a subjective and piecemeal way, but you can tap in more real time and make full use of the efforts of like aggregation and so on.
Right.
Right, and when we think about the Chief Information Security Officer, known as the CISO, when you start talking about cost savings and so forth, the board understands that you're talking their language, trying to, bridge that gap between technology speak and finance speak. So when you think about the role of the CISO, how should they be presenting their strategy, their concerns, their needs in today's environment?
Yeah, I think it boils down to presenting board, like Andrew was saying, a more intuitive way to show the impact of operational cyber into their business, such as cost, impact to revenue and reputation, right? And also various compliances.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, Ajay, what we found with organizations is by helping a CISO connect different types of cyber risk to impact on goals and objectives in a direct and seamless way, then the CISO at the top table is able to have a much more business-focused conversation with fellow executive team members and with the board itself. Right. In other words, you're not like ships in the night, which is arguably how traditional risk programs and cyber programs have been built. Now it's dovetailed, it's all joined up to provide a much more business-centric approach to managing cyber risk.
Let's talk about the regulatory environment for a moment here. The SEC cyber risk governance disclosure that companies have to make, what is that going to entail, and do you think they're going to only increase regulation?
Well, there's no question that in the cyberspace, we're going to see a continued focus from regulators around the world. Obviously, cyber is a top risk for organizations. Right. And the implementation of disclosure requirements is a typical first step on the regulatory journey. And the more that boards and senior leaders can get their arms around those disclosure requirements, again, not just kind of, at the last minute, just doing the bare minimum, but tying those disclosure efforts into your overall cyber program and making full use of it, then again, you're dovetailing, you're tying everything together and creating, not just what passes muster from a regulatory compliance perspective, but is truly adding value to the organization.
Right, which makes sense. I don't understand why you wouldn't do it, right? The last thing you want is a breach or compromising, customer data and so forth. It seems as if, why wouldn't you comply besides the fact that you have to? Yeah. Well, I mean, so AJ, how do you see this environment evolving? It just seems like there's so many layers that are constantly added to the tech stack, which of course opens up vulnerabilities and so forth. How do you see this cyber environment evolving?
I see that AI and ML, artificial intelligence and generative AI and machine learning is going to play really very powerful role moving forward, because it's all about learning from your own data, right? And then predicting risk in the context of where to focus. There will be always risk, right? And there will be thousands of it. But the fact that where a company needs to focus in terms of understanding their risk landscape, whether it's supply chain, whether it's impact to revenue, whether it's impact to reputation or compliance, have those all information at their fingertips through a centralized platform, which can even predict with probably 99% plus accuracy. I think that is going to be the key.
I mean, when you think about predictive risk models, it seems as if some of the bank failures that we saw earlier in the year, rather than having to model out what your risk looks like relative to the interest rate environment, using Excel spreadsheets, I mean, this predictive technology could have potentially helped them manage their portfolio better in theory.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely, and by being able to tie multiple data sources together in a more organized way using AI and ML, you're putting the key stakeholders on the board in a much better and much more, much stronger proactive position to be able to make decisions around, how the business is organized, not just in the cyberspace, but as AJ was describing, any type of risk that an enterprise believes is important to them, whether it's an emerging risk, something that's established. Using a platform like Optimeyes in an incremental way, you're able to continue to build what you understand to be today's risk landscape as it specifically applies to your organization.
Can any size organization across any vertical leverage the Optimeyes technology? You don't have to just be a Fortune 500 company, smaller companies can use it as well?
Any organization can use Optimeyes. You could start with one data source, you could start with one risk model, and then build from there. And one of the advantages of that kind of build and expand model is that the information is available to any number of different stakeholders in an organization, not just the CISO, but the chief risk officer, the chief financial officer. And as you begin to use the platform, you grow, you start to use it for multiple different purposes, naturally it can expand. So yes, any organization could start out.
Which is so interesting, because it seems as if the CISOs are increasingly going under the CFO umbrella.
That's right.
Versus the technology side of the house.
That's right, and that's why I think our solution creates that fundamentals groundwork in terms of creating one source of truth, because one of the biggest challenge in enterprise risk is decision making, because you don't even have same definition of risk within a company, and then you have multiple stakeholder. The way a CFO sees the risk is different than a CISO or CIO, and part of that problem we create, like Andrew was saying earlier, one source of truth for all. And then the dashboard could be customized based on the persona also, but it's all fed by one underlying truth, because we collect data from different sources, normalize using AI ML, and it also learns as you go, as you put more data sources, right? It learns and it can predict more accurately. The goal on day one, to your question, if anybody can implement Optimeyes, yes, because the goal on day one is not to boil the ocean or to have a 100% accurate model. The goal on day one is to have a model with few data sources, and then the platform learns as it goes from different contexts, from different data sources, and so on. and the prediction would be more and more accurate.
Which is interesting because it's customized for each company versus getting
Yep.
a piece of risk software and it's standard across the board. I mean, businesses operate at different verticals, different sizes, different geographies.
Absolutely, you're right, because we saw that from the beginning. This platform is highly configurable and also highly customizable. So it's customized for each industry and within an industry based on clients' revenue and their risk appetite.
All right. AJ, Andrew, we appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thank you.